This bill is not bad. As a result of Governor Dayton's determination, we've been able to substantially reduce the cuts that were sought by and a part of the legislative bills that were originally passed in the public safety and judiciary area. I want to highlight a couple of the provisions which I think are worthy, but more importantly, I want to highlight a couple of the provisions that are not in the bill that make this bill not bad. The civil legal services cut, which left this floor as part of the conference committee report at 17%, has been reduced to 6.7%. Now, civil legal services save the courts about $4 million a year because of the work that they do in screening out cases that should not end up in the judicial system. However, the substantial reduction in their cuts will make it much easier for them to continue to provide the legal services to those among us who have so little personal resources that they don't have the ability or the wherewithal to have legal representation when they are engaged in the judicial process on the civil side, or when they ought to be in order to protect their rights, either as initiating litigants, plaintiffs, or as defendants in lawsuits which they did not start. While I would prefer to see more funding for civil legal services, 6.7% cut in the scheme of the current budget situation is something which I think they can accommodate and still provide meaningful legal services to those who need it. The only hesitation I have remaining with regard to civil legal services is that while some of the worst policy language was in fact removed from this bill, there is still a policy rider that limits the ability of the lawyers representing these low-income individuals to provide the legal services most needed by those persons. However, I think that they will be able to proceed under the circumstances, and we'll just have to adjust their priorities accordingly. The cuts to the Office of the Justice programs are significantly reduced in this bill compared to when it last was on this body's floor. Importantly, this bill does not cut the crime prevention grants, and there are no cuts to battered women's programs mandated in this bill before us now. Fortunately, the illegal transfer of the 911 armor radio funds into the general fund was removed from this bill. It would have violated federal law, as well as the commitment to those who are paying for the extension of the emergency communication network on their phone bills. The Department of Human Rights, which was to have been cut 65%, and which would have had significant statutory restrictions on their ability to provide services, is in much better shape in the bill before us. The cut is now only 5%, consistent with other government agencies, and the noxious policy restrictions limiting their work has been removed. The fact that the short-term offender program will not become an unfunded mandate on local governments now and will remain as in current law is also another advantage of the bill you have before you. Same with the chemical dependency treatment program at the Faribault prison. If there is one proven way to reduce recidivism, to reduce the likelihood of offenders when they are released from prison of returning to crime, it is treating them for their underlying chemical dependency program or issues, and maintaining at least the current beds that we have at Faribault is a good way to continue to reduce repeat criminal conduct. The public defender system, which would have seen an increase in their budget of 5% under the governor's plan, and would have seen a legislative increase of only 1%, sees a 2% increase in this bill. And while everyone involved in the judicial system and on the, from what I can tell, on the Judiciary Committee in the Senate agrees that increased funding is necessary for the public defenders in order for the judicial process to function effectively, as well as to meet our constitutional mandates to represent those who are accused of crimes but don't have the funds to represent themselves. A 2% increase is much better than a cut, and it's better than when it left this floor. And for that reason, I think that it is as good as we can get at this time and is worth enacting into law. I would submit to the body that all in all, the cuts which are in this bill are cuts which, given our current budget situation, can be absorbed without doing significant damage to the services which the Department of Corrections provides to lock up our most egregious offenders and to supervise those once they are released into our communities. It is something which the Department of Public Safety can work with to continue to provide driver and vehicle services, driver's licenses, motor vehicle tabs, and other public safety related programs, including the Office of Justice programs and crime prevention programs, which in the long term are among the most effective ways to spend our dollars in this area. And the Department of Human Rights survives in much its same form for the benefit of businesses that wish to learn how to avoid breaking the law in the way they treat their employees, and for the benefit of both businesses and employees that feel aggrieved with an ability for the department to continue to investigate as well as educate violations of the State Human Rights Act. For these reasons, members, I would recommend that you do support and vote for this particular budget bill. I do want to add one other point. There is a substantial transfer of funds from the fire safety account, and as we heard in committee, there will be a lot of analysis in the coming year or two about whether and how to best implement the fire safety training program in Minnesota, how best to use the funds which are paid into that account by homeowners as part of their homeowners insurance liability or liability insurance policies. And while the original transfer from this account was $8.5 million, it is now down substantially to about $3.5 million. And while it may be necessary to do that at this time, it is a great improvement. And I know that Chairman Limmer will join me in trying to find a way in the future to best administer those funds so they in fact do go for the training purposes that the fire safety community is unified in indicating that they continue to need and are not as yet fully utilized based on the funding that should be available to them. So for these reasons, members, I encourage you to vote for this Judiciary and Public Safety budget bill.